Hi, this is Lainey Cameron, and I'm thrilled to be here with Lisa Braxton, whose book, The Talking Drum, just recently released. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lainey.
And you're an essayist, short story writer, novelist. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining you from Weymouth, Massachusetts, which is about 20 miles south of Boston, at my church's conference room, actually. The lighting is so great here. I thought I would leave home and come to the conference room and set up my drums and my book and do the interview here.
Awesome. And I saw your drums, so I'm actually hoping I get to ask you some questions about those later. Let's talk a little bit about the reviews for this novel. And I'll say that I am reading it. I think I might be 80% of the way through. And your character development in this novel is amazing. You have so many different characters, and I feel like I'm rooting for every single character in the book. The reviews on Goodreads are amazing. People are calling it heartfelt, complex, as you can see on this slide. And like I said, character, skillful writing. This is your first novel. How are you so good at the character development stuff?
Yeah, I don't know, but I have a background in journalism. I worked as a journalist for many years. First, I did some radio news journalism in my hometown, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Then I moved on to a newspaper in Richmond, Virginia, wrote there for several years. And I switched over to editing and television journalism. And I think all that writing experience also mixed in with my love of writing creatively helped. And then I got a Master of Fine Arts degree in creative writing from Southern New Hampshire University. So I've been writing in different forms for a long, long time. And I think that's really helped me a lot.
So talk to us about the inspiration behind the book, The Talking Drum. I think it's a bit of a true life story. I was reading it's to do with your parents' experience. Tell us more.
I began just writing a short story about a man and woman who meet up in a bookstore because the woman wants to rekindle their old relationship. And I wrote this 7-page piece for years. I was working on it and not getting anywhere. And then I decided to break out and add more characters. And as I was adding more characters and working on the story, the theme of urban redevelopment and gentrification came into play. I guess it was in my subconscious because my parents owned and operated a clothing store beginning in 1969 in Bridgeport, Connecticut, in an urban area up until the 2000s. And all of a sudden, for some reason, when I was writing my characters, my man and woman became a husband and wife who opened up a protest bookstore, a Black-owned bookstore in an urban area of a fictional city named Bellport in Massachusetts. And their neighboring community is going to be taken by eminent domain for gentrification. So I think that a lot of what I experienced watching my parents operate their store, watching the neighborhood changing, and properties being taken for a waterfront upscale development that's still being developed right now. I think those things played into inspiring me to write as I did for The Talking Drum.
For me personally, urban development is a topic that can seem abstract. Like, I lived in San Francisco and they were doing that. They were taking big chunks of the city and redeveloping them, but seeing it through the eyes of your characters who are actually living through this experience has been really eye-opening for me. So talk to us about the drums in the book. I'm fascinated that you have drums right there behind you.
They're djembes. They're miniature djembes because the djembe is about 25 inches in height. And you normally put it between your knees and you tilt it and you play it. And I bought these so that before COVID, I thought I would be doing some live events and I would have them on display as I was talking about my book and selling it. But now they're serving just as an illustration of what the drum is all about. I learned a lot of interesting things about the drum in African villages. It has a spiritual quality to it. By tradition, a blacksmith is the one who cuts the tree for the drum, and they pray to the spirit of the tree for permission to cut down that tree. And the blacksmith chooses a tree that fits that drummer, the right size for that drummer. So they cut it down, give it to a carver, and the carver carves the actual drum. And animal skin is used for the face of the drum. And it could be goat, it could be kangaroo, there are all different kinds of animals that can be used for that. And the drum possesses the spirit of the animal skin, the spirit of the tree, and the spirit of the carver. So it's all very interesting, a lot of interesting history behind that. I actually took drumming lessons to learn how to drum, to bring that to life in my novel. And it was one of the most humbling experiences of my life, because drumming looks easy to me, that you're just banging on a drum, but it can be very intricate. So that was a very interesting experience for me to go through.
What was it that inspired drums to be so central to the storyline of the book? Like where did that come from?
Because my main character, Malachi, the husband, husband and wife, he's rather into, it's during the Black Power movement, and he's very militant, and he wanted to name the bookstore after something that harkened back to the African villages where people were signaled to come together for marriages, for births, for all kinds of rites of passage. And so that's why he named it the talking drum, because the drum is used to signal for those things. He wants people to come to this bookstore and talk about the affairs of the day, to have intellectual discourse, to do poetry readings, and to do little plays and things like that, and children's essay contests. So that's where that comes from. And also my drummer, Omar, is a African drummer who plays the djembe. So he plays the drum.
And you said this started with a short story. Was there anything that changed dramatically as you went through the editing rounds on the novel? Anything that had to get cut or that changed in how you approached it?
The other day I looked at my first version of the talking drum, and it was so different from what it is now. But one scene, for instance, in the first version of the romance between Malachi and Sydney, I go into that a lot, where they meet on campus, they take strolls around campus, they meet her parents for the first time. He takes her to New York City, to the jazz community, to learn about jazz music and things like that. And all that ended up being cut, which is okay, because it still informed the characters as I was writing them, although those details didn't appear in the final version.
So what are you enjoying reading? Is there anything you've read recently? How's it going with the pandemic reading?
I've been reading quite a bit. One book I'm reading is Saving Ruby King by Catherine Adele West. That's a new one that's come out recently, and it's timely. It's very timely. It's about a woman who is killed in South Side Chicago, and the police dismiss it as, oh, another black on black crime. But there's so much more to it. So it's very suspenseful. It's a page turner, and it's really good. I also like Bernice McFadden. I like a number of her. I've read a number of her books, and our book club is reading one this week, actually. But everything that she writes is just so rich, and I just would love to spend an afternoon with her writing brain, to learn from her. So she's another good one. And Ta-Nehisi Coates, the water dancer, that one I read that one recently too. That was very good. But it is a challenge to find time for reading when you're trying to finish up your novel and promote the novel and encourage people to read it. So I'm really down on my reading right now, but hopefully soon I'll get back to more of these. There are a lot of great books coming out this year, so hopefully I'll get back to them soon.
Anything you would advise other writers, maybe people who are earlier in their career than you? What would you say to past you if you were trying to help and give advice to someone a few steps behind?
I would say one thing to do, make sure you're in a writing community, whether that's through finding just informally some friends who you can write with and bounce ideas off of and read your work, or if you get into one of the official organizations like Women's National Book Association or International Women's Writing Guild. There are so many different writing organizations that you can join, and they can help you to network. They'll let you know if there's if a publication is open for receiving submissions. There are Facebook groups that have formed for writers. Plug into the community. That is so important.
Great. And anything we haven't talked about or I haven't asked you that you might want to mention?
Well, I would say that the two drummers in my novel are rather attractive, sexy men. For the women out there looking to read something that's a little bit steamy, partially inspired by a drumming. I went to a drumming clinic that was held in a city hall chambers, and there were over 100 drummers there. Me being just a writer trying to learn drumming for my novel, and those were serious drummers. And the drummer who was the master drummer came in from, I think he's from Guinea, and he would walk around the room after he gave us a pattern to do, and he kept stopping at me because I was not doing it right, and he made the whole room be quiet, and he had me do the drum beat again, and I was not doing it right, and this kept happening. He'd walk around the room and come back to me and work on me, and I finally said, I'm just a writer trying to learn how to drum enough to write my novel. And so he said, fine. And then the next time he walked around the room and he came to me, and I'm like, oh no, not again. But he winked at me and then kept going. So that was kind of cute.
I love it. Well, let's talk about how writers can connect with you. You're on Instagram, and you're also, I think, pretty active on Twitter as well, right?
Yes, I'm on both quite a bit, and I enjoy hearing from people, and it is my first novel, so if you see me, feel free to retweet me. I can use all the help I can get. We all can, but being published by a small feminist press in Toronto, there are challenges. I'm not with a big publisher, so I don't have the backing of a big publisher to really blast the news about my novel. So I'd love to hear from you, whoever's out there, and feel free to retweet me and see me on Instagram.
Awesome. And I, having read it, can say it's totally worth your time. I have been reading so many debut novels, and this is honestly one of my favorites this year. I'm loving this book so much. Thank you for bringing it to the world and letting folks read it.
And thank you for this opportunity.